Today we are going to be breaking down the artwork of some of our favorite archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! This time being the Exodia the Forbidden One archetype. I absolutely love this. I just spent a lot of time actually learning about the cards itself, the brand new cards that people, and excuse me, I used my wrong OBSing. We're off to a great start here today, eh? I just recently learned about all of these new cards and how the support for Exodia actually works, and we're not going to be learning about those cards today. I wanted to dive into the actual artwork for all of these cards. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. So we will start off with taking a look at actually the first piece of Exodia, that being all of the parts to Exodia. We're going to break all these card artworks down. I'm going to talk about what I like about them, and we're going to begin this journey with not a single card, like I said, but with 5 fractured ones coming into one big picture. We see the left leg, the right leg, the left arm, and the right arm of the Forbidden One alongside the final piece of Exodia in the middle, that being Exodia the Forbidden One itself. Each limb, it has a heavy golden shackle which is visible, a chain linked to a great monster. Now the art for these limbs is simple, it's direct, it's powerful in its minimalism, there's no scenery, there is no battle taking place like on some cards. The background's kind of like teal and blue, almost like a swirling vortex, and it just highlights the magnificent, iconic monster in itself. And Exodia is one of the most iconic monsters in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, in the show, these limbs are not really treated as just body parts. They are almost like fragments of one of the god cards, you know, sealed away by ancient magic, ready to just bust out. Now, the chains in the stone were always actually interesting to me because they really are not just part of the design. When it comes to the lore, when it comes to the show, they're visual representations of that lore, showing us like the lengths that people took to seal away a power that was almost deemed too dangerous for the world. And it's a card that nobody was ever capable of wielding, and the show did a good job of representing that. And I think that these cards have always looked very, very cool, to be honest with you, man. But we don't stop there because we have more cards that we can take a look at in this Exodia archetype over here, and that being some of my favorite Exodia cards. The first one being Exodius, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord, or I don't know how I don't recall how it's supposed to be pronounced, to be honest with you, so my apologies for that. But we're going to continue on with Exodus, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord. Now, unlike the static, almost monumental art of the other cards, Exodius is dynamic and active. His figure is lean, he's like a muscular warrior for Exodia, stripped away of any heavy golden armor, and it's not exactly like the same as the original form. The headpiece is similar to Exodia, and that's always been consistent, but that's really like all that you can really draw. But continuing on with Exodia Necros, we see a more darker, corrupted iteration of Exodia. This is obviously, like I said, stand out on its own. It's darker, which has always been a little bit confusing to me because I always thought Exodia was pretty dark in general, you know, with the dark magic they always talk about in the show. But anyways, unlike the other cards, this one's not really an image of raw power, but it's still a very strong card. The background is like a sticky green with some black. It's like a little bit of a haze that seems to come out of Exodia Necros. Then this could be the result of a summoning condition, that being the contract with Exodia, which we will be talking about down the road, and I should have included it with him here, but the card requires all 5 pieces of Exodia to be in the graveyard. The art does reflect this, and I love when card artwork does this, man. Exodia is no longer just like a summoned god. It's almost like Exodia Necros is cursed being brought back from the grave. The power here isn't divine, it's dark magic that kind of like binds a broken god to a plane. And again, it shows with how lackluster this card actually is. Now, I also remember thinking how cool these cards were back in the day watching Adrian play these cards, and the archetype itself is actually giving me like just quite the nostalgic feeling in general, but I also feel that same way for the next card that we're going to be talking about. And this next up is Exod, Master of the Guard. Now, this card kind of represents a different side of Exodia the Forbidden One, and quite honestly, I never really considered it part of the Exodia archetype, so different, but is on the website, so here we are. This art shows a massive golden figure, similar in design to Exodia a little bit, but its posture is more stoic. It's like an immovable defense, and its effective defense points represent that. Now, the lore of this card, or as far as you can get into it, it connects it to the Sphinx archetype, the creatures associated with just Egyptian puzzles and defense and all of those cards back in the day with the structured decks with the flip effects. Now, the art also does visually represent that as well, with the card's name, with the card's posture and like the stony appearance, kind of hinting that this card is not an attacker like any of the Exodia cards. Now, we have come to two cards that kind of like further explore this archetype of Exodia instead of just like taking a look at Exod Master the Guard over here, and that is both Exodia, the Legendary Defender, and Exodia, or excuse me, the Legendary Exodia Incarnate. These are two very, very unique pieces and different versions of like the complete Exodia. First, Exodia, the Legendary Defender. The Exodia figure here is almost made of like some dark substance. It's formed like less organic compared to the other ones. The familiar chains, they're completely broken here. They're broken and like being free from his body, but I don't know if he was still bound before that. Perhaps like he's an Exodia just going on the assault, or maybe he's defending. I don't know. He's the Legendary Defender. But one that's easier to break down is the Legendary Exodia Incarnate. This card art returns to form with the vibrant Goldiv, like massive form from the first five pieces, but like on a grander and more powerful scale. The figure is now a colossal version of Exodia, its body filling the entire frame of the card. This one looks like a full deity, capable of the Forbidden One's power. The art is a visual representation of its summoning condition, which requires a Forbidden One monster to be tributed. This could just almost be like the ultimate form of the archetype, but it's very strange to say that in general when we have like such a being that we're talking about when it comes to Exodia. But I'm doing my best here. Hopefully it's still like, hopefully I'm looking into these cards pretty properly, to be honest with you. I just like, I blew it a little bit with the Eldritch archetype, like looking a little too deep into some of it. But next up, I do want to talk about True Exodia. This is a very interesting card too. Now, I didn't know until I read a comment about it that this was a little bit more of a joke card, because when I was initially learning about the archetype, this effect completely just confused me. But anyways, like in this art, like the figure is small, it's stylized and almost like a toy version of like the massive Exodia that we've come to know. It's not really part of the Exodia lore as far as I'm aware, because its effect literally causes the opponent to win. But here we are, like, what can I say? I can't honestly say much else of it, to be honest with you. It's just like, it's another version of Exodia over here. Like, it's just like not supposed to be the same as all the Exodia cards. But continuing on, I must apologize for the cards that I was able to get over here, because they're only like shown in secret rare, and I think the Exodia the Forbidden One is shown that too. But we can continue on with a couple, like one non-monster card over here and then a fusion. The first one being Millennium Nth, which this card is a little bit more minimalistic. It does a good job representing the Forbidden One's history. The Nth itself is a symbol for eternal life, which does well with Exodia. And here, it's fused with the Millennium Eye, which we all love from the lore and the anime show. I always thought it was super cool how they ended up tying some of these things in together, but that's really all about that we can pull from Millennium Nth over here. But now, we also have the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. This artwork fits the name, like this artwork fits the name perfectly, representing like its like kind of unstoppable nature. It's golden armor here. It's more refined and perfect, like more than any different version that we've spoken about today. I would imagine that this really is the final form of Exodia, but I also find myself at the same time stopping again, because how could you possibly get greater than the original Exodia? Then again, this also makes me think like, okay, there has been times where they ended up topping the God cards, but there's only so much that we could like break down about that, right? But now I wanted to talk about like one of the cards that we briefly spoke about earlier, and that being one of the cards that I probably should have also displayed earlier. We have Contract with the Exodia, which is one of my favorite cards. The art here is both literal and a metaphorical representation of the effect. We see the familiar snarling head of Exodia rising up from the ground, but now it's in a spectral form, emerging from behind the stones for like a ritual, Each tombstone is marked with a symbol representing, like, I would imagine it represents the 5 parts of Exodia. The background is dark. It's a storm-filled sky with bolts of lightning coming in, striking the ground, striking the tombstones. This might not exactly be the grand summoning of Exodia, but maybe a deal with the power of the Forbidden One. But honestly, guys, like, the more that I think about it, the more that I think about, like, the arc that I spoke about with Adrian in the actual show, because he had access to Exodia, but he also represented and used contracts that did give him the power of Exodia. It's honestly so cool when you think about it, because the art itself is a visual representation of the dangerous pact made to summon like the corrupted form of the Forbidden One, and that's something that we did see in the lore, that's something that we did see in the show. It's just, I think it's pretty cool, man. But we also have with this Exod Fires of Rage, where this piece of art depicts like Exodia. Man, it's so cool. Like Exodia and Exodia's hand. And so like some of the forms that we've looked at, it's just like a beaming massive attack. Like from the name, it could be Exod, but I can't personally really tell by the card art here. A lot of these Exodia cards like look pretty similar, but at the same time, it just quite literally says, like I said, Exod on the card. It's pretty tough in general. But continuing on, we have two very, very iconic cards where we take our little, final descent into the lore here with the Exodia Archetype. And this might be one of the most famous catchphrases of Exodia and Yu-Gi-Oh! The artwork for Obliterate and Obliterate Blaze is an iconic moment of just pure underrated power. Like, Exodia looks so cool here. And what can I say, man? It is a giant version of Exodia using the attack and just showing, like, what a big, grand force of nature it is. It looks like a god attacking with, like, a world-ending gesture. And you can just think about Yugi just yelling Exodia, Obliterate. Now, for Obliterate Blaze, it does look a little bit like when he was attacking Zork, but I also can't really tell from this. Regardless, like the card artwork itself, what are we supposed to say about it, man? It does a good job representing Exodia and Obliterate and his iconic attack, man. But if you want to talk a little bit more about card artwork in general, why don't you check out the one where we just did with the Edlich archetype. You can check that out right here, and I would love to have you over there. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Take care, everybody.